You're watching the number one podcast in the YouTube wrestling community, and I'm your host, Jean-Paul Leek, and this is Rope Break. So, Family Tuesday morning, you know what that means. Riding solo again, Jean-Paul Leek bringing you the Monday Night Raw review. And fortunately, this show, like most Monday Night Raws we're used to, pretty awful. This is just, there's no excuse for this. SmackDown, we've been praising the past couple weeks, especially, this last Friday's episode, we said really good. So it's like, okay, maybe Monday Night Raw is going to be good. Even at 3 hours, at least sometimes there's some good segments here. Tonight was just a pretty awful show. And if this is the trend, it's going to only get worse because, pretty much everything we saw, I feel a lot of people either aren't excited for or it's predictable and it's just not good television. So, without beating around the bush, avoiding it any longer, let's begin. But before we do, like always, we want to thank each and every one of you guys. Thank you so much for all the support. And speaking of support, go check out Impact, Rebellion. Juan covered it, great review there, pretty good show, stacked card. Kenny Omega does it again. He becomes the Impact and TNA. I assume both of those belts he has now. I didn't actually get to see the show, but I, check out the review. But, he wins both those belts. So, what's next for the cleaner? Guess you got to tune in, Wednesday to find out. And of course, we'll be covering it right here on Rope Break. So let's begin with Raw. It opens up. We see just everything that's been happening the past few weeks with Mace, T-Bar, Braun Strowman, the whole pretty much WWE World Heavyweight Championship picture. So we see Mace and T-Bar, and they said that, they're wearing different gear, kind of have some face paint on, no masks or anything. And they said that, they have no masks, no I guess, alliances, really. And they said they're free to cause extinction. So, yeah, I wish the show would go extinct. So we see Drew McIntyre. He's backstage warming up. Braun Strowman comes up, and Strowman says he saved Drew's ass last week, and he wants to thank you. McIntyre says he asked for the handicap match, so he didn't need help. Strowman says if he hadn't helped, Drew's career would have been ended, and maybe he should listen once in a while. Braun calls Drew a kid. He's like, I forget what the exact line was, but he calls him a kid. McIntyre gets angry, and he's saying that he's the one with the long career, the championship wins. Braun tells him he'll do it alone, and like Drew couldn't do last week. So Strowman is now asking for this 2-on-1 handicap match. Again, let's just keep, burying Dijakovic and Dio Madden. But yeah, what do they care? So we get a 2-on-1 handicap match, T-Bar and Mace versus Braun Strowman. And, this went exactly how you think it would. Braun was kicking their asses, pretty much jobbing these guys out. They got a little bit of offense and a little bit of stuff towards the end of it. They really took control and started beating him down. And in the handicap match, it's a handicap match, right? You shouldn't be ringing the bell when two guys are beating him up. Strowman's out in the corner, just laying there. The ref immediately calls for the bell. Like, oh, he can't continue. It's done. And you're like, what the hell's going on? Why would this be a disqualification? So Braun Strowman wins off disqualification. Just really awful call right there. And then as soon as the match is over, Drew comes out and, he evens the odds. Him and Braun, they clear the ring, and then McIntyre looks at Braun and, he asks for a thank you. So, then when we come back from commercial break, we get the tag match anyway. You couldn't have just spared us the tag match. You had to just elongate it with the handicap match beforehand. Then we get the eventual tag match, which again, very short. And it's just bad because it buries these guys. Nobody cares. We already know, we said it here on Rope Break. Everyone else says it. We know this title match at what is it? Payback, is going to be our Backlash, is going to be a triple threat. We already called it. We already know it. Just make it so. Why do you need to just give us all this bullshit? But at the end of this tag match, T-Bar shows Drew into the barricade, and they actually win on a count out. So it was a swerve. But does it really matter? They won on a count out. They didn't win by, causing some dissension between Drew and Braun, that they pinned one of them and then these two guys actually got a legit win and look good. No, it was on a count out. Drew rolls in the ring. He has this shock look on his face in disbelief. The heels, they roll out of the ring. They act like they just won the Super Bowl. They're their arms up in the air celebrating. It's like, it's just bad. So then after the match, Drew stares at T-Bar and Mace until Braun spins him around and hits a running power slam. So then you see, oh, okay, there's the dissension, there's all that stuff. But again, nobody really cares because, what do we always say? This is an awful booked show is when the main event is set up by the opening segment. And that's exactly what this did. Because then we see Drew McIntyre backstage. He approaches Adam Pearce and he says he wants Braun in a match tonight. Pearce says that he can do it. So there we have our main event. Does anybody care? No, not really. Then we see the Miz and Morrison there in the ring. Yeah, speaking of things we don't care about, we go to Miz TV. Miz and Morrison are in the ring with Jackson Riker. The Miz, they talk about their TV show, and he says that it's because of him, Bad Bunny sold out and all this stuff. They eventually are like, hey, we're going to do an unplugged thing with Hey, Hey, Hop, Hop. So they start singing it. Lights go out. Priest interrupts. He says he just wanted to have a better view of the performance like he had when Bad Bunny beat them at WrestleMania. So Priest then introduces Wood and Kingston. They bring out a big, bass guitar case. They open it up filled with tomatoes. So they start pelting the four heels with the tomatoes. And, this match goes underway. So we see the New Day and Damian Priest versus The Miz, Elias, and Jackson Riker. I don't know what's John Morrison, why he can't be involved. You couldn't find another babyface loser to put with these, three guys. And I don't want to call Priest a loser because he's great and he looked good in this match. But unfortunately, he's just grouped in with a bunch of losers here. And, this was okay. The heels actually did look pretty good in here. Riker doesn't look bad. And, the Miz is the Miz. Elias is Elias. But mostly, cheering for Damian Priest. He looked good in this thing. But let's just skip to the end of it because it's a feud and a thing nobody really cares about. Priest and Woods, they hit a leg sweep on Riker while Kingston hits a missile drop kick. Priest gets a 2 count on Riker. Then he kicks Miz off the apron, but Morrison catches him. Priest takes out Miz and Morrison with a somersault senton on the floor. Elias goes to the top rope, but Kingston pulls him down. Wood catches Riker with an inside cradle for the win. So the winner, the baby faces, again, why isn't Damian Priest going after Sheamus? That should be the next feud. Make him the United States champion, not being mixed in with the New Day and their feud with Riker and all this other bullshit. This needs to end. If you're going to have a match at Payback or Backlash, whatever it is, Backlash, I could care less about the pay-per-view, hence why I can't remember the name. But whatever pay-per-view it's called, just have it end there and then move Damian Priest on to bigger and better things. So then we see Sonya Deville. She's walking backstage and she lets Charlotte Flair in the building when, Flair was supposed to be suspended indefinitely for attacking an official and fined $10,000 or $100,000 or whatever it was, find some fake amount of money that she didn't actually have to pay. So then when we come back from commercial break, Sonya Deville's in the ring. She introduces Charlotte. And when Flair's in the ring, Sonya introduces the referee who she attacked, and we see a replay of it. Sonya says she doesn't agree with what Flair did, but that Pierce didn't even allow Flair to speak. Charlotte apologizes to WWE and the WWE Universe and the referee. The referee thanks her, and he says that if he's seen Ray interfere last week, it would have gone differently. He said, I didn't see it. You should have won the match, blah, 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 kissing her ass. Deville says that Charlotte paid her fine, and she is now officially taking the suspension off. Charlotte can compete tonight. So 1 week of this. You couldn't even stretch this out yet 1 week. Just awful. So then Charlotte is pleased, but then stops smiling, and the referee admitted it was his fault, so he should apologize to her. The referee apologizes, and Charlotte smiles, and the referee holds down the ropes for the ladies as they walk to the back where Adam Pearce is waiting. He isn't happy, and Deville apologizes, saying it was a last-minute thing. Pearce says he doesn't believe her and walks off. So we're seeing some dissension there. Hopefully, we get what Juan and I have been saying. One of Pearce on one show, Sonya Deville on the other, have them be the GMs. I like when there's a GM, for each show, not flip-flopping back and forth. But there really doesn't need to be a GM on SmackDown because Roman Reigns just rules everything anyway. So who the hell knows? Then we come back from commercial break. Pierce is on the phone and walks in Braun Strowman, who says the match with Drew tonight sounds great, but a while ago he didn't get beat in the triple threat. It was Randy Orton. And he said, Strowman wants his match tonight to be a number one contendership, and Pierce, and then he's like, or do you need Sonya Deville's permission? So Pierce says if Braun wins, he can be added to the match instead because Drew already won his, title shot in that triple threat. But the next best thing he can do is add him to the match. So then Sheamus is in the ring, and we see a replay of his open challenge from last week. And Sheamus says that Humberto Carrillo was just the first of many. He didn't let the match even begin because Humberto doesn't even belong in the ring with him. And after his success of his title defense last week, he's offering another open challenge. But once again, the title isn't on the line. So we see Humberto. He comes out again to face Sheamus, who cheap shots him. Sheamus stomps Humberto down. He attacks him. Humberto throws Sheamus off the ropes, then drop kicks him off the apron twice. And then Carrillo hits a massive suicide dive, sends Sheamus, careening over the announce desk. Then Carrillo makes his way up the ramp as Sheamus flips out at ringside. So is this going to be a feud? I wouldn't mind it because, Humberto is a hell of a wrestler. He's, people compare him like to Ray Phoenix, at least when he was on TV a lot and he was really hot. I wouldn't say he's as good as Ray Phoenix. Well, I mean, that's hard to say. Ray Phoenix is more exciting, but I think Humberto hits a lot more of his dives and his moves than Ray Phoenix does. But if this is the feud, it's out of nowhere. I mean, it'll be a good first defense for Sheamus, but, Humberto's going from, nobody knew who the hell he is. So now he's just on TV and we're supposed to pop for him. Like, oh, it's Humberto. Like, no, not really. You're not building this guy up organically. That's why Priest would make the most sense. But hopefully after this feud with this mini feud, I don't want to call it like a legit feud with Sheamus and Humberto, hopefully Priest comes in there to take the title. So let me see MVP and Bobby Lashley. They're stopped for an interview backstage, and they're asked about the possibility of Strowman joining the match. But MVP says Strowman isn't in the match yet, and they like to deal in reality, and they have some grievances to air, and they'll do that next. So let me see Rhea Ripley. She's interviewed backstage, and she says she happily watched Charlotte get fined. Tonight, she focuses on her tag match so Charlotte can keep playing rugby with the referees. Again, just Rhea feels like lost to me, even though she's the champ. It's just, but the whole women's division, especially on Raw, is just not very good. So then we see Bobby Lashley and MVP. They come to the ring. Lashley says he did exactly what he said he would, and he retained his title at WrestleMania. He says he disposed of Drew, but he's like a wad of gum that won't get off his shoe, and he has to face him again. But this time, it might be a triple threat match. MVP says that he's offended by that, and he wants to know why WWE are treating Lashley so poorly. Lashley says WWE is respecting him, and MVP concurs. MVP says Lashley lost his U.S. title in a triple threat, and he didn't even get pinned. And here we are again. It's unacceptable. Lashley says Drew and Braun both know he beat them both one-on-one, so he'll have to come tonight and observe the business because this interests him. And because after chasing the title for 15 years, nobody's taking it from him, the almighty era won't be ending anytime soon. So good promo by these guys. I hope that's the case. I'm hoping because, spoiler alert, you guys see it in the thumbnail. You saw it if you watch Raw. Strowman is added to the match at Backlash. So hopefully that was only so Bobby Lashley can pin him or submit him or whatever he needs to do. And they keep Drew, not pinned so that their feud can continue. But hopefully the almighty era continues as well. So then we see Riddle. He's interviewed backstage and he asks about beating Randy Orton. Riddle says he feels incredible, like he's on cloud 12. Instead of cloud 9, he's up 3 more notches. He says Orton is a big, scary snake, and he squished him like a big, sexy mongoose. So then out walks Randy Orton, and he says he doesn't know what planet Riddle is from. And then Riddle says, oh, I'm from Earth. And he's like, oh, and he's like, you and I have nothing in common. And Riddle goes, oh, well, we do. We're both from planet Earth. So, I mean, he gets a little funny lines in here, and I'm a fan of Riddle. He did go down a couple pegs for me when he completely botched that thing a couple weeks ago with Asuka. But, I still like the guy a little bit. So this was funny. And he says that Randy Orton said he underestimated Riddle last week, but he sort of earned his respect. And Randy says Riddle's idea for a team name called RK Bro wasn't half bad either. And he already pulled some strings, and they can team tonight if Riddle wants it. Riddle starts ranting about matching snake skin Speedos until Randy shushes him. And then Randy says that they can see how it goes tonight, and Riddle is ecstatic. So, I mean, hey, we thought maybe Randy Orton was going to go off TV for a little bit after this Fiend thing. We didn't know. Now we're going to see the RK Bros, a tag team, which, I'll get into when we get to the match. But, I think, they're teasing the dissension, but I think they're going to be a team for a while. And maybe they can feud with, the tag team champs if we can ever find them. Nobody knows where they are. They've been missing since WrestleMania. So then we see Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, and Reginald are backstage discussing Charlotte Flair's actions. Baszler tells Nia to forget about Charlotte. The last thing they need is more distractions. A man walks up and hands Nia a bouquet of flowers, and it's Angel Garza. Angel Garza says they're from him because Nia is beautiful. Then he kisses her hand and wishes her luck. So Reginald is pissed. He's like, what the hell? So then they're walking away. Nia starts, and then she sees Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke, and she hits them with the bouquet of flowers, and they start laughing and keep walking. So then Strowman is warming up backstage. MVP approaches him. Oh, and if you guys want to know my opinion on that segment, I could care less. So then Braun Strowman is warming up backstage with MVP and approaches him. Braun threatens MVP, and he says Lashley doesn't appreciate Braun's attempts to weasel into the Backlash match, and Braun tells MVP that Lashley should talk to him instead of sending his lapdog. So Strowman instructs MVP. He's like, if you're here now, you might as well send a message, and that at Backlash, he will take his title. So, tough words there. We'll see if they hold true, but I do not think so. Then Randy Orton and Riddle, they make their way to the ring for their inaugural tag team match, and that is Randy Orton and Riddle, the RK Bros, versus Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander, formerly known the Hurt Business. So, this match, there's no way this match could be bad. You had two OVW, stars here in Randy Orton and Shelton Benjamin. And then you have, Matt Riddle, who's good, and you have Cedric Alexander, who's extremely underrated, underutilized. It sucks that these two guys are now like the jobber team when, they should still be the tag team champions. They should have been the tag team champions at WrestleMania, and they should still be the tag team champions now. But this match was really good. It wasn't super long, but like I said, all four guys in this are fantastic. Some good stuff in this match. Cedric, he comes off the top rope. Randy Orton catches him with an RKO in midair, so he's taken out of this thing. Shelton rolls to the apron, and Orton grabs him for the draping DDT, and he's going to hit it. And then you see Matt Riddle. He's like, tag me in, and Randy Orton wasn't going to do it. And then, the whole time Corey Graves is saying, oh, this team isn't going to work. Randy Orton's a viper. He's a snake. He's going to turn on Riddle, blah, 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 all this stuff. But eventually he tags in Riddle. He hits the draping DDT. Riddle hits the floating bro. 1, 2, 3, and they win. And then the whole time after it, he goes, oh, he's going to hit the RKO. He's going to hit it. He's going to hit it on him. He never does. So the team lasts. I'm good with this. Like I said, let's see where you go. Because, you don't really have any tag teams on this show. And it sucks. You have to take two singles guys because you can't build tag teams, but you do have the returning Viking Raiders. So, they're good to add into the mix. So pretty decent tag division if you kind of think about it. The New Day, if they would just shut up and just wrestle, they're good. And you have Jackson Riker, Elias, Miz, and Morrison if you want to put them in there. Viking Raiders, like I said, the missing tag team champs. So you do have a decent division, lots of really talented guys. It's just how you portray them. So then we see after the commercial break, the RK Bros, like I said, they celebrated. Everybody was thinking the turn, nothing like that. So good stuff there. Then after commercial break, we see Asuka, Naomi, and Lana versus Rhea Ripley, Nia Jax, and Shayna Baszler with Reginald. So to me, this just proves how lost and how bad the women's division is. You can't just have the tag team division be their own thing and the singles division be their own thing. You got to mix them together. And I'm not going to lie, I was watching this match, got to commercial break, and I took my time getting my cup of coffee, getting a snack, all this stuff. When I came back, this match was pretty much over. So I really didn't see what happened. I can't give a good opinion on it, but I can probably tell you it was the shit. So let's take you through the end of it, though. Rhea, she tosses Asuka out, and Naomi tags in Naomi tags in Lana. Ripley catches Naomi attempting a Hurricane Rana and hits a Riptide. Lana attacks Rhea, but gets caught. Rhea wants a spinning sidewalk slam, but Lana rolls her up with a crucifix for a 2 count. Jax drops Naomi and Asuka at ringside, and then Rhea hits the Riptide on Lana. Then Nia tags in for the leg drop and gets the win. And I know during this also Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose came out and they kind of threw some water on Shayna Baszler. And then, Nia Jax came running over and she slipped, all this it's just garbage. This is just bad. The heel's winning here. I don't understand what Nia had to tag herself in and get all this. Is she going to go after Rhea next? Nobody wants to see Nia in the title picture. Nobody wants to see this match. Awful, awful, awful. So then we come back from commercial break. Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville are backstage. Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke are backstage with Sonya Deville. And Sonya says that they should be ashamed for everything they've done tonight. Again, like I said, throwing the water and all that stuff. And Deville says that Rose has always had bad taste, and as punishment, she faces Charlotte Flair tonight. So then we see Alexa Bliss. She's in her playground with Lily, and she says that everyone can have a Lily of their own. You just have to look into her eyes, concentrate, and think dark, twisted thoughts, and then say Lily, Lily, Lily. Finally, picture something peaceful, breathe, and we see images of the sunset. Lily appears on screaming. Bliss laughs and says that Lily can be mischievous, and Alexa says that Lily is getting restless, so it's time she unleashes her. Just don't blame her for what happens next. Oh, don't worry, I'm not going to blame you. I'll blame the writing staff for this awful Bray Wyatt and storyline that they're constructing. I wouldn't even call it constructing; we'll call it deconstruction because you're just completely destroying these two. Bliss was good as, his partner, his cohort, whatever. I don't hate to use this analogy, but his Harley Quinn to his Joker. But, you completely ruined it now, so I could care less. So we see Charlotte Flair versus Mandy Rose with Dana Brooke in Mandy Rose's corner. Real quick, Rose looked all right, but again, this was Charlotte Flair. This is her establishing her dominance as a new heel here. So Rose battles Flair in the corner with some forearms and whips her forward to the corner, but the referee gets in the way, and it's almost like, oh, it's the same ref. It's like, oh my God, here we go. If the ref is going to get his ass beat again. No, Charlotte screams at him before landing a big boot for a near fall. Flair then blames the referee and tells him to count to 3, rolls up Charlotte for a near fall, and then hits a knee to the face for another 2 count. But then Charlotte drops Mandy Rose, hits a natural selection for the win. So there we go. Maybe this ref is going to join, Charlotte Flair and Sonya Deville. Maybe it'll be a little bit like you have a heel ref who always maybe does a fast count for Charlotte, so she always wins because he's scared of her or whatever. So we'll have to see where that goes. So then we see Drew McIntyre. He's interviewed backstage and asked about Braun Strowman. Drew says he thought, it was get these hands, not get these handouts. He says that Braun is a monster complainer, but it doesn't matter. Tonight only ends in one way, with a Claymore. So then when we come back from commercial break, we see Braun Strowman versus Drew McIntyre in the main event. If Braun wins, he's added to the WWE Championship match at Backlash. And this was actually not too bad, for the guys involved, mostly Braun Strowman, because Drew's great. At MVP Bobby Lashley, they were out there as well on commentary, or at least watching the match. I can't actually remember. I think MVP... Actually, you know what? I don't think they were actually on commentary. I think they were just out there at ringside watching the match. But, this was pretty much Vince McMahon's, his wet dream. He had 2 big guys, beating the hell out of each other. I mean, some good spots like Braun, he caught Drew in the Claymore and hit a big power bomb. That was good. Drew hit a big belly to belly on Strowman. He's 350 pounds plus, they were saying. So to do that, very impressive stuff. But at the end of this thing, we see Strowman, he crawls over to make the pin for a near fall after he hit a big, almost like a superplex or a super brain buster. But Drew kicks out. And then Braun grabs Drew, starts clubbing him in the chest, then hits a running splash in the corner. Strowman hits another splash as Lashley gets on the apron and distracts the referee. So MVP can pull Drew off his shoulders because he was going to hit the power slam. And then Drew, he hits, or Drew wants a Claymore. And, he's setting up for it, but then you see T-Bar and Mace, they kind of jump on the apron, distract Drew, which doesn't make any sense because are they with the Hurt Business? Are they not? But then again, if you think about it, they said that they don't have any alliances. So maybe they're saying, screw you, Hurt Business. We're not aligned with you because you guys really didn't help us. So I don't really know what that storyline is because you think if they were with the Hurt Business, they would distract Braun. So he would lose. So it'd be a one-on-one, not a triple threat. But they distract Drew, which allows Strowman to pick him up. He hits the running power slam. Not very good. He almost just picked him up and kind of just dumped him. I don't know if he was, completely blown up and the guy really couldn't, actually pick him up and run with him. But he hits a slam, 1, 2, 3, so he wins. So Braun's added to the match at Backlash. And afterwards, we see Lashley. He stands up on the desk, holds up his title. The 2 baby faces stare at each other. Then they point at Lashley saying, we're coming for you as the show goes off the air. So there you go. That was Monday Night Raw. I mean, you find a segment in there that you thought was really good, please comment and let me know. Like I said, the main event match wasn't bad, but we already knew what it was, and we don't care about this triple threat. I just want Lashley to win. The whole United States Championship picture isn't even a picture. It's just, it's Sheamus, Humberto. Like, okay, nobody really cares. The women's tag team division is trash. The women's division as a whole is just not very good on this show. And where's the tag champs? Where's AJ? Where's Omos? What's going on here? That's Monday Night Raw is just what's going on here. I can't think of a perfect way to describe this 3-hour, just train wreck. And speaking of trains, Braun Strowman. So see how it all comes together and connects. But like I said, guys, that was Monday Night Raw. Comment, let us know what you think. Give this video a thumbs up if you agree with us that the show is just, straight up awful. And let us know, show your friends, get everybody on Rope Break because we're only growing and growing. And it's all because of you guys. So thank you so much for watching. And don't forget to follow us on all the social media, Rope Break on Facebook, OG Rope Break on Twitter, Original Rope Break on Instagram, and of course here on YouTube, the home of the #1 podcast in the YouTube wrestling community, the Original Rope Break. So guys, we will see you tomorrow night with NXT, a show that's really not looking much better, but we'll cover each and every segment like we will. So guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you then. The